Good afternoon and welcome to the TCPalm editorial board meeting to interview candidates in the Vero Beach municipal election. I'm Larry Reisman, columnist and community editor, and I'm joined by fellow editorial board members Adam Neal, Gil Smart, and Louise Philippine. Thanks to our candidates today for meeting with us and streamlining this process by completing questionnaires ahead of time. Board members have reviewed them. Questionnaires can be found at tcpalm.com/elections, along with other stories, videos, and information about the November election, November 3rd election. At the conclusion of this interview, editorial board members will discuss possibly writing an editorial to recommend a candidate in this race, or two candidates, actually, or three candidates. I'll lead the questioning and open it up to other editorial board members at the end. If time permits, we might also ask questions posed by our social media audience. We've got several questions for you today. We may end up having more of a conversation than just a simple Q&A. Our goal is to be completed in about 45 minutes. Because of our time constraints, we ask that you keep your answers concise. We'll start the questioning with Robbie Brackett. And so first question for you, Robbie. Can you give one example of what you have done in the past year or so that proves you are doing more than just talk about helping the Indian River Lagoon?
Well, we've done a number of things in the past year, particularly with the economy. We balanced the budgets. We've lowered taxes in my first year in office, and we've worked with businesses downtown and to the beach side during this COVID situation. I'm very proud of the work I've done. I've been in contact with most of the restaurants, most of the bars, other businesses around, and tried to help them out with other plans with the planning department and other different departments with the city of Vero.
Thanks, Robbie. John, what have you done to help the Indian River Lagoon, do you think, over the past year? You're muted right now.
Okay, you broke up a little bit there. But
same question for you. What have you done to contribute to the health of the Indian River Lagoon over the past year or so?
Okay, fine. I think my contribution is from my own standpoint is I've been working on the Utilities Commission. I was appointed to the Utilities Commission, and I've been working very closely with Rob Bolton on Senate Bill 712. The new Senate Bill 712, which is Senator Mayfield's bill, is going to open up opportunities for Vero Beach for some matching funds, some funding for us to explore. First of all, getting the wastewater treatment plant off the lagoon, and also other step system situations and that type of thing. And the reason why I've been doing it with Rob is I have a relationship with the Senator's office based on the advocacy work I do in public policy for the Alzheimer's Association. And because of that, I've worked with the Senator's office, and I've built up relationships, and I'm assisting Rob in trying to make sure that Vero Beach gets its fair share of funding to help us finance the movement of the wastewater treatment plant off the lagoon.
Thanks, John. Brian, how about you, Brian? What have you done over the past year or so to try to help the Indian River Lagoon?
Well, other than to continue to advocate for the only thing that really will have an impact on the lagoon, and that is, if you want to clean the lagoon up, stop dumping in it.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. John, we'll go with you for the next question, which is, do you think a stormwater fee in the city of Vero Beach would be in the best interest of property owners? What would you do to assess its fairness or viability?
Before we get into any fee, because if we kind of look up, the thesaurus, a fee equals a tax. Okay, I think what is necessary is that the stormwater utility designation be fully investigated, and so forming a stormwater utility is important because there's some unfunded mandates that are coming down from the state that we're going to have to adhere to, whether we agree with it or not. We don't want to have what happened to the Rio Vista neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale, where after neglecting stormwater, a stormwater situation there, they get hit with a fine that far from the state that far outweighed any investment they would have made. So when you assess when you organize a utility, you need to look at the utility as you're organizing a service to the community. There has to be deliverables. There has to be an idea of where the money is going to be invested to assist in the cleanup of the lagoon. And once you get that plan in place, then I think you can look at what is necessary to accomplish that plan. Can we accomplish it based on the current situations we have now from funding, or do we then need to look at additional funding? And once we look at additional funding, I think the city council has already approved in the budget monies to set aside to discuss with the consultant who dates back to 2016 on ways to assess a fee and how this fee would be administered throughout the city. But again, you have to set up the criteria. You have to analyze the situation first, and then you have to determine what has to be needed for the community, and then you make an assessment on the fee.
Thanks, John. Brian?
It seems to me if you're having such difficult time just trying to assess the fee, you're probably looking at the wrong thing. What we really need to do if we want to clean up the lagoon is we need to stop dumping in the lagoon, and we sure as hell don't need another tax to do it.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Robbie, any thoughts on the stormwater utility or fee?
Yes, Larry, let me back up a second because I misunderstood your first question. I thought you said, what have you done other than lagoon?
Okay.
So I didn't answer that right. So I just want to back up a little bit and talk about the stormwater. Stormwater is what runs into the lagoon, and as Brian has said, we limit that as much as possible. It's going to help the lagoon. STEP program is another issue, and street sweeping is another issue. Okay, we've increased street sweeping out to clean it before the debris gets into the gutter system, into the stormwater system. That way, that's where all your nitrogens and phosphates come from there. Now, as far as the utility tax, I have said from the dais a couple of times that I'm against that right now. Number one, we have a number of people that are hurting business-wise and consumer-wise financially. It's a wrong time to be increasing taxes from that standpoint. Number two, I think we have to completely explore the idea of what we do just to change this without taxation. Okay. For example, we're currently exploring a project right now that would take about 3 million gallons a day, okay, and sell it as reuse water. Rob Bolt's working on that project with Monty and myself right now, and that's actually more stormwater than the city of Vero puts in. We put about 2.5 to 2.8 million gallons a day in stormwater. So we'll actually pull 3 million out. And those are the ways you work creatively, I think, to get rid of your tax credits for these unfunded mandates from the state.
Okay. Let's go. The next question, we'll start with Brian. What's the most important thing City Council can do to help its relationship with Indian River County? There seems to have been some issues between the City Council and County Commission before.
Annex the entire county into the city limits and get rid of the county government.
Okay. Robbie, how do you feel about improving the relationship between the City Council and Indian River County? What can you do?
I said this last time I ran, Larry. It's important that we have a good relationship with the county. It hasn't been a great relationship up to now. I've been working on it personally, trying to establish relationships there. I talked to Jason Brown a number of times. I meet with different county commissioners, talk about projects they got going on, talking about the ideas that we don't need to both be doing the same thing and reinventing the wheel. But we're not there yet at all, as you know. And they have 2 new members now going on. Maybe we'll get better. But we have to just continue that relationship, work as a team together to help the city of Vero and the county.
Okay, John, do you have any specific things that you think the City Council can do to help improve its relationship with Indian River County?
Well, I have a tendency to agree with Robbie. What we need to do now is we need to actively outreach to the county. We're going to have to be the initiator of discussions and ongoing discussions on various and sundry things that the county and the city synergistically should be able to work out. I've already begun that process with both the two newly elected county commissioners. Introducing myself as a candidate, hopefully, if the vote is see clear and place me on the council to continue the dialogues. I think there's some openness there, but you have to continually pursue it. Things I learned in business is these types of situations which have become contentious in the past for whatever set of reasons need constant follow-up and relationship building so that potentially you can have a breakthrough and have something where it'll be beneficial for both the county and the city.
Thanks, John. Hey, Robbie, just to follow up on that question, is there some reason why the city council and the county commission couldn't have a joint meeting?
I don't know if there's a legal reason why it could be advertised. I could talk to the city attorney and find out, but I do think that we have to continue to build relationships. It took a number of years for it to get this way. It's not going to happen overnight. I've been working with different ones over there now for about 16, 17 months since I got in office, and I think things are getting better, but we've got to find some commonality.
And what would the harm be in having a joint city council county commission meeting?
Well, I think you just can't have a meeting for the sake of a meeting. I think you have to have a purpose, a plan, a project. Maybe we do it with the three corners and bring them in to get some ideas again from the three corners, and maybe we can get some joint projects going that way, because the three corners will benefit the county residents also in the unincorporated area.
Okay. John, what do you think about a joint city council county commission meeting?
Well, if we're able to do it under the Florida sunshine laws, just assuming we can have the meeting. There are several areas. Robbie mentioned one of the three corners. The other one is recreation in general in the city, in the county. There's a lot of overlap in the use of city facilities by county residents. It's been a discussion point for many years. It could be something, another topic that we discuss. It's the total integration of the recreation facilities and so on and so forth between the county and the city, and also the lifeguard situation. Again, that whole thing is encompassed within our recreation budget. So there's something like that could be a discussion point where both county and city residents get a benefit from it. It happens now, so you can see what the kind of benefit it can be derived immediately, and it's something that I think is a good starting point.
Thanks, John. Brian, do you have any thoughts, Brian, on a city?
Well, yeah, sure. As a candidate, of course, you should know that it absolutely is possible under the Sunshine Law to call a joint meeting. You have the usual rules, but can you meet jointly? Of course, and we have. And the county versus city in terms of adversarial relationship has been going on for 30 years. This is nothing new.
Okay. All right. We'll start the next question with John. Under what circumstances would you consider voting for an ordinance that would require the public to wear masks inside city facilities and inside businesses where public-facing employees also would have to wear them?
Well, okay. This is when you sit at the municipality level. This is a situation you face where direction needs to come from not only the municipality but also from the county and state. Now, personally, I wear a mask. I wear a mask for what I would define as the common good. and to benefit my community. Now, what I believe, there are a number of decisions going to happen at the county and state level that's going to impact what we do in the municipality of Vero Beach. To do something unilaterally that doesn't take into, for instance, what is happening at the county and state level, I think is it's doomed to be a very contentious situation, something that would not necessarily benefit all the people of Vero Beach. And I'm talking about some of the businesses and some of the people who interact with businesses. Yes, it's important. Again, I say I wear a mask. I think it's very important to wear a mask and to protect the community, and, as I define as the common good. But without the support of both from a county and state level, I think it would not be a prudent course of action to take independently for the city.
Thanks, John. Let's see, Brian, any thoughts on that? You want me to repeat the question?
Well, if I understood the question was, under what circumstances would you vote to have a local ordinance to mandate mask in private businesses? Under what circumstances? None.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a circumstance. No,
Okay.
if Publix wants to require a mask inside their store, then it's their store. And if I go inside Publix, I'll wear a mask, or I'll go someplace where I don't have to wear a mask if that's my choice. But government wants to control inside their buildings, that's fine. But outside of that, I can't imagine or envision any circumstance under which I would. I mean, I don't think the local government has that authority.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Robbie?
Yeah, as you know, at the city, we did vote to have the city hall wear masks. People didn't know the city hall there. But as you also know, I voted against a mandate twice. I'm not for a mandate of mask. I am for masks. I've encouraged people to do it. I've done PSAs. I wear them myself. And respect other businesses that do them. But again, I have to agree with Brian there that I'm not going to mandate what people do in their own business that way. It's just not for the government to do that. And so, as I said, I voted twice against it already to mandate it, and I would keep that vote. But I still would encourage people to wear a mask. We haven't proven that masks work. In fact, where they are mandated, their numbers are going up and ours are going down. So I think that you have to question that, to what level they do work. I do think they help some, but to what level, I don't know.
Hey, thanks, Rob. We'll start the next question with Brian. Do you think the city should participate in efforts to ensure the playing fields just to the north of Vero Beach High School are preserved for recreation? Or would you be okay with them becoming apartments at some point?
Well, more than disappointed, more than discouraged about the events that have happened over that piece of property. My understanding was that the whole reason for the Graves Foundation was to preserve that for recreation, and I just don't like the whole circumstance and no to the apartments. Okay,
Robbie, you have any thoughts on that?
I would not be for apartments being on that property, that site. I understand the contract that they had on that has now gone away. That they're trying to go back and do something recreational wise, but it's very difficult to do. But I would not be for that being turned into apartments or housing there.
Okay, is there something the city can do to help that along? Right now it sounds like it will be used for recreation, but can the city get involved at some point, you think?
That's a tough call. I don't know if the city can or not. It's a financial issue. I personally, I thought the school board should have bought it originally, but they chose not to, and I'm not going to second guess them. It's their decision. But I have talked to Monty about it a little bit to see what can be done, what can't be done there. And it's really just comes down to dollars and cents and what can we use it for? And so that's what we have to answer that question.
Thanks, Rob. John?
Yes, I think everyone's covered all the bases. I would not necessarily be in favor of putting housing on that spot. I think I think you need to bring to an endpoint all what they're trying to do from a recreational standpoint. I think it's needed. That type of as a recreational facility is needed both for all the residents of our city, and I think it's the best utilization of the property based on its location.
Okay. Thanks, John. We'll go to Robbie. I think Robbie for the next question, which is, what should Vero Beach's strategy be for dealing with parking in its Oceanside business district?
It's a good question, Larry. As you know, that's been the elephant in the room now for the last 5 years, probably, maybe longer. You know, we've got to get back on that project. It's funny, I spoke to Monty about it on this past Friday in our regular meeting, and we're going to go back out and look at the spaces that they recommended, the 80 spaces the consultant recommended on off-street parking, and drive each one of the streets and see how we can figure that out and see how we impact the residents and how we don't impact it. Because the last thing we want to do is impact our beach residents also. So we're going to look at that. You know, we've had some opportunities to look at some land over there, and there's just not much land around. The one vacant land that sold recently was $2.6 million, where the old Magic Market was there. That would have been a great place for a parking lot, but that's just very expensive parking from that standpoint. So we've got to look at that. And you know, it's a shame we can't get more people to do shared parking agreements, but they're not willing to do that over there. So we have to just go ahead and invest the money. I think put the parking spots in, get 75 to 80 more spaces. Go from there. Listen, parking though is a problem over there, but it's not a crazy problem. It's a good problem to have. Now, the businesses are thriving over there, and they're all doing well. They were before COVID. And we'll have to address the same thing on the downtown side also. Same way.
Thanks, Rob. John?
I think when you look at the parking situation, I think there's a combination of things that can be done. I believe Kimberly Horn had identified 79 spots to be we call on-street modified parking, and I think that's important. If we can free up those spaces with a reasonable cost, then we probably should, as long as we're not impinging on the property rights of any of the landholders there. The other thing is that some of the major demand on those parking spots, which has a tendency to cause issues, especially during season and during the morning and let's say shopping hours, is the workers who work at the 4 major properties on the island. And one issue with the study Kimberly Horn did was they never interviewed or polled how many actual workers at every location of those locations are actually taking cars and parking. So somehow we need to work in a cooperative manner with the major properties on beachside and determine, is there a way to incentivize off Ocean Drive parking for the employees? Is there some way that we can get those employees to move to park in a different location and not be one of the major contributors to some of our parking issues? So I think it's a multifaceted approach. You look at adding parking spaces, you look at trying to incentivize the workers who work at the major locations, which have substantial personnel, and of course the third aspect is trying to come up with an enforcement parameters that make sure that we're enforcing the parking restrictions in a fair manner.
Sounds good. Brian?
Well, there is no parking problem, and the taxpayers shouldn't be spending their money to solve a non-existent problem. My surveys and Kimberly Horn surveys both came to the same conclusion, that even at peak times, there's an abundance of parking spaces. The problem is that the owners of those parking spaces want to be paid for the use of their parking lots. And lots of people over there don't want to pay the fee. Well, I can't help that they don't like parking fees because they haven't had them in years. You know, the reality as you grow is that parking lots become valuable, and the income is a thing of value. And I don't think that taxpayers should be paying to create free parking and by so doing, diminishing the value of the paid parking facilities that exist on the island. There is no real parking problem. There's a problem that people don't want to pay for parking. Oh, well, take Uber.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We'll start with John, I think, on this next question, which is, what do you see for the future of the Three Corners property? What's a realistic time frame for improvements, say, on the power plant site?
Good question, because today we actually had a interesting meeting with Monty and Jason and some interested people there, and Councilman Brackett also attended. The realistic timetable, I believe, is on the north side. You're talking 3 to 5 years out before before development would take place and take hold, and so on and so forth. On the south side, you're talking about you first have to relocate the wastewater treatment plant, which is plus or minus 5 years out. Envisioning, personally, I envision a site there that integrates entertainment, restaurants, maybe a hotel, meeting places for the citizens of Vero Beach, and also, of course, it's going to include the county. My original vision of this remains the same. It's kind of the focal point for our city, kind of uniting beachside to land side. It offers entertainment for families. It offers entertainment for adults. It's a place where you can come spend a better part of a day if you like, whether you're coming by land or you're coming in from the lagoon. It's a show place from the standpoint of the versatility and variety of entertainment you can have, restaurants you can have, or just enjoying a peaceful day with your family. And I think that's what I envision. I envision places that provide recreation for people who, younger than myself, but also be able to have locations and places where people can go and congregate, and in my age bracket. And other, the restrictions have been placed upon some of the thought processes because of COVID-19. This is going to be several years into the future. And although COVID-19 will have an effect and how we think about certain things, it's not going to prevent people in the long run wanting to come together in a well-defined space that's a beautiful view, compatible with the environment, and enjoy themselves with their families and friends. And that's what I envision.
Thank you, John. Brian?
Should I start back in 1947 and give you the history of government involvement in building recreation and other kinds of projects, and how they've all failed and how they've all cost taxpayers a lot of money? Certainly there were some good ideas put out, and we spent $250,000 already, or whatever the bottom line is that we spent with the developer and the associated cost with that, but the consultant. But whatever we do over there shouldn't be on the backs of the taxpayers, and government should not be in the development business and spending all these monies on infrastructure for commercial. This needs to be a project that the developer takes over and the developer pays, not the taxpayer.
Thanks, Brian. Robbie?
Yeah, the time frame is such that on the north side will be 3 to 5 years, and on the south side with the sewer treatment plant, 5+ years before we can do anything over there. I envision this project as being something that is not paid for by the taxpayers. We've said from day one we want to be revenue neutral. There may be some cost involved with the planning part, which we've already spent some of that money, but it was nowhere close to $250,000. I think it was about 165 or 170 is what we spent for the planning side of it. But I envisioned, hotels. I envisioned restaurants, waterfront dining. People can go over there and enjoy themselves at different levels of price points. I see it being a place for families to hang out and enjoy, have picnics in some of the green space area. I see it an entertainment area. I see that that we can continue to do that and make it a destination point. We only have about 150,000+ residents of the county here, 18,000 city residents. But I see it as being something that draws people from Brevard, from St. Lucie County, and also being a destination place by land and by water from that standpoint. So I look forward to working on that and to continue to work on that project over there because I think it's very essential that we have that here. It's our last piece of land, our last piece to do something with really in the city. It's on the water. I think with the whole COVID-19 thing, that small town USA in the end is going to benefit. And I think it's, to steal that phrase, if we build it, they will come. But again, let me be very clear about that. My intent is not to do that with taxpayer dollars. My intent is to make that a revenue neutral site. Turn it over to a developer, not for lease it, not sell it. Turn it over on a land lease to somebody and let them run with it.
Okay, good deal. Next question. Let's see, we started the last one with John. So we'll start the next one. I've gotten a little out of order here, I think. We'll go with Brian and then John. We'll go with Brian, Robbie, and then John, and then we'll adjust the lineup from there. But the next question, this is for Brian. Given that Indian River County is expected to grow by 50,000 people through 2045, would you be in favor of narrowing the lanes of traffic along State Road 60 between 20th Avenue and Indian River Boulevard, also known as the Twin Pairs?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay. Robbie?
That's a good question, Larry. It's the problem with the way the Twin Pairs are right now. It comes from 3, goes to 4, going westbound, and then goes back to 3 again, a bottleneck around St. Helens Church. So I don't think you lose much by narrowing one of those lanes down. But I would do it in the sense that it could be done for parking on 1 lane only, not 2 lanes, like was suggested, 1 lane only, in a way that you could actually open it back up for hurricane to evacuate with, from that standpoint. And I'd be willing to consider that. I'd have to see the overall plan, though.
Okay. Thanks, Robbie. John?
Sure. Just one point. When you asked about 3 corners and asked for vision, that's my vision. But I want to emphasize the sheer fact that I've always worked under the assumption that it's revenue neutral and will not cost the taxpayers any money for development or ongoing maintenance. I just wanted to clarify a vision, what a vision is, and maybe something that would be more from a reality-based situation. Back to the Twin Pairs. I agree. The closing off of 1 lane for parking, I think, would be important to help and benefit some of the businesses down in that area who are having a issue with parking. But it has to be flexible so that in case of an emergency, it can be readily shifted for evacuation. So essentially that's my answer on that.
Okay, thanks. Just out of curiosity, does any other editorial board members have any questions?
Hey, Larry, I got one. I'm not sure who's up, but I'll just ask the question, Larry. You can direct who's up. Many Florida cities have focused on a greener future, and they've done things from investing in renewable energy sources to such as solar to decreasing emissions with hybrid and electric vehicles. Vero seems a little bit behind on this topic. If elected, what, if anything, would you do to help the city with any green initiatives?
Okay, so we'll go with Robbie, then John, then Brian.
Okay, we've already started some of that. If you notice around City Hall, we've taken most all the grass out, gone back to more of a natural look. We're doing that downtown in the Islands area right there also. We don't have a lot of renewable energy here. We don't have a power plant anymore doing anything. So, but we are using renewable energy with solar panels for speed signs, things like that now, which the city's using for that. Our biggest source we need to deal with again is stormwater. Taking the stormwater off the surface and reusing it somehow, selling it for reused water, which would not only generate income but would prevent us from dumping more in, and also to encourage and incentivize other property owners to do the same thing with their yards. I know at the Moines right now they've taken about a 6 or 8 foot section of grass along the seawall and taken it out and made it more native plant friendly, and so that when they're mowing that yard, they don't run through the grass and dump the grass into the lagoon, because that's where the nitrogen come from.
Okay, John.
Well, in a city our size and our age, it's difficult to plan green initiatives, for new construction, because it's really essentially infill. I think one of the things we can do is, when we look at the Three Corners project, look at that project from the standpoint of a green initiative, working with a developer and trying to ensure the fact they're LEED certified. I think one rendition, we even had solar panels located on the power plant. So there's those things that you can bring about change that way from the green initiative. The other thing is, of course, the stormwater mitigation. Again, it's a less visible green initiative because no one is seeing a solar panel or certification for an LEED type buildings, but it's something that I think will also lead to our contribution. And then there's the native landscaping, the cutting down on water, leading by example. I happen to have a native landscaped front yard, so I understand what it entails to do that. I think you lead by example from that standpoint. You encourage those types of gardens and to be done within the city. And the city's looking at maintaining and upgrading parks. They look at it from that standpoint. How do we make it more native plant friendly? How do we make it drought tolerant? And how do we then incentivize any infill construction within the city to ensure that it is more green than not?
Thanks, Brian.
When your income is less than your outgo, then your upkeep will be your downfall. And right now, we have city government that can't live within the expected income without borrowing money. I wouldn't find any new projects to spend taxpayer money on until we have a budget and a city that is balanced where the income exceeds the expenses. I think we need to get back to basics. Our lifeguards, our police protection, keep up the streets, keep up the parks. Let's not find more things to do. Let's not find new things to charge taxpayers with.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else have a question? Adam or Gil or Louise? Okay. All right, I've got one more question, and then when I'm done with this question, we'll give you an opportunity to talk about anything that we might have missed, anything that you'd like to talk about. We'll start the next one with John. Should the city consider any zoning changes or commercial properties along the water, such as those on Royal Palm Point and some in the beach area, are not torn down and built into condominiums, residential condominiums?
So let me repeat that. Should we consider zoning changes at Royal Palm Point, using Royal Palm Point as an example to prevent condominiums being built?
Yeah, to either prevent more condominiums from being built or to encourage continued commercial or mixed-use development.
Well, I think, the Royal Palm Point area, there's great debate of how it was developed, what happened there, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of points to be learned there when we looked at Three Corners also, when we were trying to envision a Three Corners project. I think, you're involved here with property rights, and I think that's very near and dear to the hearts of many people here in our city. I think a process of review may be necessary, but I don't see where a general platform to run on, rezoning or entertaining rezoning of the Royal Palm Point area as an example is something that at this point in time is high on the list of things that the city should be engaged in or thinking about.
Thanks, John. Brian?
I certainly would not be in favor of the city doing anything in terms of zoning changes to prevent anyone from doing what they're legally entitled to do with their property.
Thanks, Brian. Robbie?
I think the Royal Palm Point property, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't have to change the zoning there. It was already a mixed use. They had allowed for some residential and zoning there. But as a general rule, we want to keep density low in the city of Vero. But if somebody has the right to do that on their property, then I agree. Private property rights are important. If they don't, then we can make that decision as whether we're going to change the zoning or not. But we need to, every project is different, but we need to focus in on what the citizens want here, and that is they want low density here in the city of Vero Beach.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, we'll give Brian the opportunity to start on anything that we've missed, anything you'd like to bring up, and then we'll go to Rob and John.
Well, to repeat what I've already said, when your income is lower than your expected expenses, you got trouble. And we have a city council that hasn't addressed that in several years. I'm just not in favor of new spending plans, new ways of spending tax dollars. Stop the insanity.
Thanks, Brian. Robbie, anything that we've missed today or you'd like to bring up?
No, I close with just saying, 2 years ago, I made a commitment to keep Vero's taxes low, the quality of life high, and work on cleaning the environment. We've delivered on those three promises, and there's more to be done, though. And I just encourage people, one of the things that distinguishes me from the rest of the group is I have a track record. You can go look how I voted for the last year and a half. And so I'd encourage people to do that, and they'll understand the way I think.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Robbie. John?
Well, yes, I think the experience that I have in business and working with various and sundry groups, because I worked in an international business and with a Japanese company and working to what they call Kaizen, which is consensus thinking. I think that's very important in dealing and working with the various members of the city council. I think it's very important to address the issues that people have. I work for my community in my advocacy work for the Alzheimer's Association, and also serving both on the Utilities Commission and on Three Corners Steering Committee. I believe that a person like myself who is able to understand issues, look at an issue, ask the questions that will drive the answers of from a business standpoint. My only special interest group is the citizens of Vero Beach. I only want to do the best for them, provide for a quality of life that they can enjoy this great place that we live in, and to continue that forward, and to make sure they have a quality of life, public safety, and enjoy where we are.
Thank you, John, and thank you to Robert Brackett and Brian Heady for joining us today as the TCPalm Press Journal Editorial Board, talking with the first group of Vero Beach City Council candidates who are running in the November election. There's lots more on TCPalm at tcpalm.com/elections. And again, thank you guys again for joining us today, and we'll see you